This was many years ago. I was 15, and this was the first summer where my parents were comfortable with me being left alone during the day while they were at work. The main reason they wouldn't leave me home alone up until then was because I was young, but also because our house was kind of isolated. If something were to happen, there would be no one else around to help, and I couldn't just run to the neighbor's house right next door. Anyway, several weeks went by, and it was just a regular, good summer break. Nothing really happened. I spent most of my time downstairs in the basement, which has always been the game room with all the game consoles and stuff. I'd get online with a bunch of my friends pretty much every morning and game through the day, just like really any other kid my age would. But on the day this happened, I woke up really tired and basically just went down to the basement and watched TV for the whole morning. Probably Cartoon Network, or whatever I watched as a kid. Around noon though, I heard something upstairs. It sounded like a couple of knocks on a door. I assumed the front door, but when I went up there and looked, no one was outside the house. I really didn't think anything of it and went right back down to the basement. Like I had mentioned, our home wasn't really in a neighborhood, but a section of wooded land on the outskirts of the town. The driveway was a turn directly off the main road, so someone turning off onto our driveway and coming all the way down to the house was very rare. That's why I assumed the knocking or thumping I heard was just something else. Maybe the house making noise. I could count the times we'd gotten a random knock at the door on one hand, and that's after living there for basically my whole life. I unpaused the TV, and after a little while I turned on the PlayStation and started gaming. None of my friends were online at the time, so I was just playing alone. I think a whole hour went by, and I had my headset on the whole time, but through it, I suddenly heard a thump. Loud enough to get me to quickly take the headset off. Then, there was another. It almost sounded like a snapping sound of wood being pried or broken. Then, there was another. I started to hurry to the stairs to go see what it was, but as I was going up, I started to hear a dull, sliding sound. I was almost sure it was a window opening. I stopped before opening the door. 30 seconds went by, and all I could think about was needing to get the phone from the kitchen. But then, I heard footsteps enter the house. A few moments later, I saw shadows move under the basement door, passing by and going to the front of the house. I quietly went back down the stairs. I started going back and forth in my head whether the person upstairs was really someone that broke in or if maybe one of my parents got home from work early. But I knew it was all me just trying to convince myself I wasn't in the situation I was in. Because I was scared, I shut the lights off and went to the corner of the basement, hiding in the sump pump closet. It was this very tiny, cramped closet that I don't think a grown person could even fit in, but I thought no one would ever check there. I told myself that the man probably would not even come down into the basement and would just steal some stuff upstairs and leave. I listened for several minutes as his footsteps moved around the upper floor. Then, I heard something really strange. The upstairs TV turned on. The living room was right above the corner of the basement I was hiding in, so I could hear the muffled sounds coming through the walls. But after a minute, I heard his footsteps walk around again. He left the TV on though, maybe as a distraction, or to hide the sound of any noise he was making. His footsteps walked toward the back of the house, and then it got quiet. He opened the basement door. Through the crack in the closet, I could see a sliver of light pour into the basement coming from the top of the stairs. His footsteps started walking down, and when he got to the bottom, he didn't turn the lights on. The man looked tall and pretty big, but it was too dark to get any good look at his face or make out any real details. But even with the lights off, he kept walking further into the basement, looking around. And as he did, he was playing with a knife in his hand, tossing it and casually tapping it on his other hand. Like this was just another day. There was no fear or urgency in the way he was acting. It was horrifying. The man walked around the basement before taking a seat on the couch, still in the dark. He set the knife beside him and just leaned back. I was trying to breathe as quietly as possible. What the hell was he doing down here? It was over the next 10 minutes that I started to really become aware that this was much worse than a home intrusion robbery. I think he was waiting for someone to come home. Like either me or my parents, to then catch them off guard and do something horrible. So, he was waiting down here, in the dark. I stayed cramped up in the closet, hoping he'd at least at some point get up and go back upstairs. But, after what I think was an entire hour, I was pretty sure the guy had fallen asleep on the couch. I didn't know for sure because I couldn't see his face well, but for that entire hour, he hadn't really moved. After waiting all that time, though, I started thinking that either way, I needed to make a run for it, because eventually my parents were going to come home, and if I wasn't out of the basement and able to warn them, then things could be really bad. I, very slowly, opened the closet door. The man didn't move. I then took a quiet step out, definitely within his field of view, and he still didn't move. He was definitely sleeping. I quietly made my way around on the couch and up the stairs, grabbing the home phone and taking it outside to call the police. I was really nervous and shaking from all the adrenaline. It took maybe 15 minutes for the police to get there. The guy was still in the basement, but he had probably heard the officers arrive because when they went down there, they found him awake and trying to crawl out one of the basement windows. When they dragged him out of the house, I saw his face, and something about it was incredibly disturbing. Not because he looked rugged and unhinged like I was expecting, but because he looked the exact opposite of that. He looked very well put together, and not at all like someone who would do something like this. After that, my parents did most of the talking with the police, aside from me giving my account of what had happened. I was told the guy was just some random homeless man that broke in for a place to sleep, but I wasn't young enough to believe that. Especially after having seen what he looked like, I think it was clear that there was more to it. And from my parents' reactions, and the vagueness when they talk about it, and from all the clues I've been able to pick up, I'm pretty sure that the man was someone that my mom knew. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't get out. And my parents walked into the house with no warning.